He gives a job to Norv. And let me ask you guys, is there any job anywhere in Australia, because there isn't in the U.S., well, actually there's just one, where you can do worse 6 consecutive years? Your ratings go down 6 consecutive years, guys, in radio. Do you have a job the 6th year? Probably not.
Probably don't have a job the 3rd year.
As a sales guy, you do worse every single year. What sales organization is going to allow a sales guy to be in there year after year after year if he does worse 6 consecutive years?
Well,
he kept his job until just a couple of weeks ago. So San Diego has missed a golden opportunity. You ever have a girl that you wanted to date like in high school, but you didn't want to ask her, you were afraid to ask her out, and then you find out years later that you should have asked her out because she was actually into you? That is where the San Diego Chargers are. They had a chance to close the deal, but because of a bad coach and keeping him around for too long, they lost it. Now, a couple other guys that lost their jobs. In Kansas City, Romeo Crennel lost his job. Good defensive coordinator, not a head coach. The team went 2-14. In addition to that, he got to see one of his players commit suicide. So Romeo had a bad year. He was given his papers. He's moved on. Andy Reid is going to take his place. Chan Gailey was just not good in Buffalo, so he lost his job. Pat Shurmur, unfortunately, he did a good job in Cleveland. They didn't win a lot of games, but the team played well for him, and they're not very talented. And in my personal opinion, maybe keep him around, but they got a new owner. New owner wants to make a splash. And most of these idiotic owners are more interested in bringing in a big name that's going to put butts on the seats. But if they bring in a good name that makes the team win, people will come and watch. But that is the issue. We talked earlier about teams not having a good structure top to bottom. Cleveland falls into that. Ken Wisenhunt lost his job in Arizona. Funny, when he had a good quarterback, he made the Super Bowl. When he had crappy quarterbacks, his team missed the playoffs. Again, it comes back to who's on the field. So, that's just the way it is. There's a lot of these owners now. They want the teams to make moves. They want instant gratification. It takes time. And so that's a consequence. So this next group, there'll be a couple more coaches fired next year. Jim Schwartz will be fired next year.
A lot of people asking the question about the Giants, obviously going from Super Bowl champions to missing the playoffs in the space of 12 months. Obviously, immensely frustrating period for them as well. They had moments during the season where they actually looked like they were starting to build some momentum again.
Their game against the 49ers, they were amazing.
Yeah,
I love their coach. I love their quarterback. Eli is one of the most clutch guys. It's interesting. I actually predicted before the season they would miss the playoffs. I got that one right. But after that Niner game, I thought, Christ, they're going to win the Super Bowl again. So they just – because they came in. It was such a huge game for the Niners, and the Niners fell flat, and they thumped them. And they just punched them in the mouth over and over again. The Niners had no answer for it. Just one of those things that happens. Just one of those things that happens. So the Giants, look, they'll be back next year. You got to do well in the draft. They'll do well in the draft. They're a well-coached team. They'll be fine.
Keen to get some NBA observations as well. Cam, I guess the things notably that jump out from your point of view as well, but posing the question, and a few people have asked it as well, are the Clippers the best team in the league?
No.
I don't think they are. I think the reason that they're playing well, obviously. They destroyed Golden State, who's actually playing well in their own right this year. They've got good young talent. But in the NBA, you'll see it'll be Miami again. It probably will. Oklahoma City will be there again. The issue right now with the Clippers in a lot of people's minds, or the skepticism, comes from the fact that they've never done it.
Yeah.
So once they do it, then you'll start to see, I can consider them to be a legit best team in the NBA.
Their chemistry is great at the moment, actually.
I like them a lot.
Yeah,
I like them a lot.
I think they're top 4 in the West. I don't think they can win the West, and I don't think they can beat Miami, but I don't think anyone can beat Miami because LeBron James is the best basketballer on the planet, and I don't think anyone can stop him now that he's got that worry of that first title out of the way.
Yeah, see, I agree with you, Cam. I do. I think it was sort of scary because you're watching him, and if you watched him, he was so freaking talented. And it was just a matter of actually getting that win. And once he got that win, it's like, here we go. He could rattle off 3 or 4 in a row.
I honestly thought I'd never seen anyone better than Michael Jordan. I'm a Michael Jordan fan. I always will be. But I think in 5, 6, 7 years' time, we'll be saying LeBron James is a better basketballer than Michael Jordan.
Oh, it's already. Okay, I will tell you this. And I had people ripping me. I said this on Kevin Bartlett's show, and I used to say it on my show in Sacramento. He is actually better already.
Yeah.
He's a better defender than Michael. He's a better passer than Michael was. Michael was probably a better scorer. Michael was probably a better shooter. Michael was probably a more fierce competitor. But in terms of rebounding, he couldn't rebound like LeBron James can. He's not as physically strong as LeBron James was or is. So he's already better. He just does not have the hardware that it takes.
And people base a lot of it on, as they should, because winning, professional sports is all about winning. But
That's
people
right.
also don't realise that LeBron James has taken so many knocks already. He was at Cleveland where 1960 is the last time a Cleveland sports team's done any good. So
right. That's good knowledge. 64.
Self-indulgent
64.
TV show.
Yeah. He did a lot. He did a lot with Cleveland, and he played well in playoff games and got them to NBA Finals.
He took them to their first finals
He
ever,
did.
and they ran into a very hot San Antonio team that swept them.
After everything that had happened, he won his first championship at a younger age than what Michael Jordan did.
You're right. And here's the thing. They put that team together. The biggest mistake that guy ever made, obviously, was what they call it, the decision.
The decision.
That was an asinine. It was. I was embarrassed for him when I was watching.
What
that
I reckon went
stupid
through
thing.
his head is because they gave charity to the Boys and Girls Club, he thought the decision that I'm leaving Cleveland to go to Miami will be offset by the fact that any money raised will be going to charity. People forgot about that. Well, didn't even realise because he looked like such an ass.
He did look like an ass. I think the place where he erred most, in my opinion, I mean, the ego thing is, that could be a lot of people going, come on, LeBron, you got to do it. You should have told the idiot owner in Cleveland, look, I'm not coming back. That was where you need to be. I think you need to be an upfront guy about that.
Yeah. Then him writing a newspaper article saying Cleveland will win a championship before LeBron does was an interesting payback or a little
Dan
bit
Gilbert,
of hit back.
think about this. Emotional, hothead. It's just, just imagine working for a guy like that, though. I mean, here's the deal. Have you guys lived in one city your entire lives?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, well, you're going to, LeBron James had lived in Ohio. Okay, you lived in Melbourne. I've lived around. Melbourne's a pretty good place to live. It's not the sporting capital of the world. All right, that's from an earlier show.
Yeah.
But it's not. But it's it's a good place I'll be back here. It's a damn good place to live. He lived in Ohio. And he grew up in, I think, was it Akron?
Akron.
Akron's not great.
No.
And then he went to Cleveland, which is even less great. And so the guy wanted to live in Miami. Is there anything? The guy was 26 years old. He did what he's supposed to do. Let the guy go.
If home court advantage wasn't such a big thing in the NBA, the Cavaliers wouldn't play at home.
They're actually, they've got a good player, a guy named Kyrie Irving.
They do.
Yes.
We tried to claim him as an Aussie because he was born here and spent 2 years here. And
we tried pretty damn hard.
There was talk that he might be citizenshiped and play for the Boomers. And
he wasn't really interested, though, was he?
Well, once he realised how good he is and he'll one day play for the US, I think he realised that the Boomers is not where.
Look, I'm a dual citizen, but if I were offered both gigs, I'd have to go with Team USA. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I don't believe I'm going to get either gig, though, to be honest with you. My jump shot's not what it once was.
Now,
I can't go to my left. I got real issues.
Speaking of that, Sean in Blackburn asks, hey, Steve, do you have a show that can be tuned into via the net? So when you are back in the United States, is there a web stream where people here can listen to?
There isn't at the moment.
Okay.
When there is, I will make sure that everyone knows. I appreciate him asking.
So people just observe your Twitter feeds.
Are you still doing KB's show this year?
Yeah,
yep.
Unless they're getting rid of me, I'm probably going to do it next week.
All right.
So I've brought those guys a present too. So I would really be feeling bad if that were not the case. I enjoyed doing it. It's really fun. Kevin, I tell you what, is I love that guy. He's a cranky old,
we do too.
He's a cranky old guy, but he's actually really made an effort because I sat 5-6 years ago when I started doing this with him. He's like, I don't know anything about this sport. He's like, I don't know anything. I don't like it. I don't care about it. And I said, you know why you don't like it? Because you're afraid of it. I said, you're afraid you're going to like it. So I bought him this book, Football for Dummies, and he references it all the time. He says, "Yeah, I got that book you read me," and he's actually asked me some very good questions. So credit to him, and Pat knows a bit about it as well as producer. But I'm like, credit to him for actually taking the time to read the book and ask me relevant questions. Now maybe whether he does it, I gave him a 49er cap too. I brought him a cap this time as well. I want him to wear both these caps. But it's it's really fun. I have a good time doing that with him.
I was a late convert. I remember that. I had a school teacher from America, a woodwork teacher, who we used to talk about sport all the time, but he'd bring in a Super Bowl video from the previous year every single day to class.
Did you really?
Take this home, take this home, take this home.
Who was that guy?
His name was Mr. Ragsdale, was his name.
Good for him.
I don't know what he does now, but eventually I took it home. I thought, yeah, all right. So
it is.
He got me.
The thing that Ed and I would always say is and I was saying this earlier, we were so impressed that there was such good knowledge. Like I could go and talk to like guys I walk around with. Like when I was in college, so this is 20 years ago, we had this place called the Pit in my fraternity house. And back then, I think it was ESPN, but it may have been a different channel, used to show a weekly AFL kind of sort of like Don Lane. But, so this is what happened. So we would go down into the Pit, and we'd get beers, and we would watch – this is when Collingwood won it in 1990. And we would watch these games, and the guys like, yeah! Because there was back then that was that was a different game in 1990 than it is today. Guys
there's no quarter time melees anymore where people get knocked out and fall asleep for 3.5.
And then come back on and smack the bloke again.
It was.
I don't know where he is.
It was a lot of fun, but there's not a because you've got sport 365 days a year, and you do. There's something to watch 365 days a year. We don't break for Christmas. We don't break for Thanksgiving or Easter. There's sport every day. People don't have to look elsewhere. Whereas in Australia, you've got the footy season, you've got a bit of a cricket season, but there's a lot of months where there's not much going on. So you guys look and you understand the NFL, the EPL, Major League Baseball. So there's a good knowledge here, and I always appreciate that. And you can have a hell of a lot easier for me to have a conversation with someone here about American sport than when I'm home going, hey, did you see the grand final last night?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe Sydney pulled it out. I'm like, what? Grand final? What are you talking about?
Hey, just before we let you go, on that, you don't break for Thanksgiving. There's Thanksgiving night games and NFL, it's big there. And then Christmas Day is a big NBA day where there's normally 5 games. We don't see anything here. Good Friday is an argument that comes around each and every year. But I was thinking, Big Bash League, I'm not sure how much you know about it, but with the private franchises, and it plays, this is when it plays, obviously, and the league is condensed into a month period between first class and one-day games and all the rest of it. Do you think a Christmas night Big Bash game could work, or do you think it's something they should give it a crack based on how successful it is in the US?
I think that there are a lot of similarities in the two cultures and their affinity for sport. I think they love. The AFL here is like the NFL or college football in the South. I mean, people love it, and I think there's nothing here on Christmas Day. There's obviously the Boxing Day test. I kind of think it's nice that you keep Christmas Day sacred. I don't know what you believe. I mean, I'm a Christian, right? I'm a Catholic person, so I believe in Christmas. Yep. Certain people have feelings that you can't do it. I'm not fussed one way or the other. I think if it's Christmas, you should. I'd never thought about sport on Christmas unless the 49ers are playing. So I was talking to Brett Phillips on Christmas Day. About this very thing. He said, are you watching the games? And I went, it's one of those things where I'm more interested in hanging out with my cousins that I don't see very often. I didn't see them for years when I was overseas. And, we get around. We all have kids now, so the kids play and we drink beer and we have a nice time. And we do a lot of laughing. We might turn on a game because it's on, but, I don't think Christmas needs it. I just think that it's a function of the fact that the advertisers, the leagues and the advertisers see an opportunity to make a buck, and they know that they've got a captive audience because, Christ, it's too cold in most of the U.S. to be out screwing around on Christmas Day. The families are together. The guys are usually sitting there drinking and laughing, and it's like, hey, there's a ball game on, so you turn it on. But I don't think it's necessary. I kind of like that there's a couple days that you don't do it. So we'll see.
Steve, been great to have you back on.
I appreciate it, Chance. I had a good time. Thank you so much.
Cam, thank you again
Cheers,
for the last couple of hours. We'll take a break. Craig Gabriel from the Tennis Radio Network, working up at the APR Sydney International, will join us as well. We'll also hear from Russell Arnold.